Pirates have always seemed good about employing people with physical disabilities.
Was the plank wheelchair accessible, though seems kinda narrow. Conversely, pirates seem to have quite a few on-the-job injuries and high job retention. OSHA anyone. Eye patches are essential too. They have a great HR department. Edit. A gold doubloon. Thank you anonymous pirate. Edit 2. Double doubloons. I sense a chicken and egg thing here. Which came first? The disability or the employment? Which more than likely led to the disability?
Babies don't know dreams aren't real, so they must think they have some crazy adventures with you every day.
My 5-year-old son came charging into my room early one morning and he was speaking 100 words per second about something to do with robot dragons and asking me all these questions. So I turned to him and say, "Buddy, I don't know what you're talking about because you were dreaming." He looks me dead in the eyes and says, "But you were there." Quote, "Isn't there some evidence that 3-month-olds don't even dream the way we think of dreaming, that their life experience is so minimum that their dreams are likely just colors and feelings and emotions? Their adventures are probably just being carried between the 10 rooms they've ever existed in, and drinking milk formula, then waking up to a wet feeling. Quite an adventure." Edit. To those confused about the 10 rooms, I'm talking about including hospital at birth, maybe some doctor visits, and possibly like a grocery store or something. My 3-year-old son came to me the other day and said that he had heard a story in his eyes while he was sleeping. Was my favorite ever description of dreaming. Babies probably don't dream in the same way that a fully grown person would. The most common theories as to the why we dream suggest dreaming is a mechanism to help solidify memory. Most babies have very limited perception for a good chunk of their existence as human, are born not fully developed, which is why infants are so fragile. For the first few months babies can't even see, as their brains are still learning how to decode visual stimuli.
When you walk through a grocery store and they are playing good music, you have become their target demographic.
When I was 15, I worked in a grocery store and was really into Pink Floyd. Then one day they played Fearless off of Metal. That was 20 years ago and I still don't know how I feel about it. I heard and enjoyed Electric Avenue while grocery shopping yesterday and now I feel stupid. Not that this has much to do with this, but I guess it sorta does. So I was a manager at Walmart for a little while, and one day I was reworking an aisle and Adele came on and I started singing with it, and then about 40 minutes later I realized that same Adele song had been playing in a loop the whole day. So I went to check the music and whoever put the CD on had accidentally hit the repeat 1 button. I can only imagine the customers were like, WTF. The employees tend to tune out music, so I'm assuming that's why no one noticed. I have Shazammed in the grocery store. I was grocery shopping a couple weeks ago, and they were playing Welcome to the Jungle. I thought, weird, I'm gonna watch you bleed. Quote.
Waking up in the morning sometimes feels like resuming a shitty movie you decided to quit watching.
Holy shit, I'm going through some shit right now and this is exactly how I feel. Geez, makes me want to go back to sleep. Ah shit, here we go again. A never-ending franchise of pain. In this way life is like Mystery Science Theater 3000. You can't quit watching the very poorly scripted scenes. And contrary to what many others are saying, you usually don't have strong control over the movie, at least not in a way that won't take you through yet more long periods where you're locked into a certain shitty path. School, apprenticeship, building client base, entry-level positions. You just have control over how attached you get, whether you laugh or not, and hopefully some greater control over the movie in the final scenes. Especially when you have absolutely nothing to look forward to that day.
The most unrealistic thing about spy movies is how clean the air ventilation system is.
Well, Who among us hasn't crawled through a load-bearing duct that's oddly quiet and conveniently the size of a person? I've long considered the most unrealistic thing to be how hot all the spies are. If you walk into and you're so sophisticated and glamorous that every eye turns to you, you've kinda blown it as a spy. I routinely comment and advise on ductwork sample results, and I would say it is also unrealistic that the spy doesn't fall ill from the amount of mold and bacteria in there. Marvel's Spider-Man lampshaded this. Near the beginning, you're crawling through the air ducts in Fisk Tower and Spider-Man says something along the lines of, "You know, Fisk may be the kingpin of crime, but he's got some remarkably clean air vents." It would also sound like a thunderstorm if someone was actually crawling through one.
If humans were ever to prove the theory that our universe is a simulation, it would simultaneously become the moment when artificial intelligence becomes self-aware, ironically making humanity the artificial intelligence all along.
It would only be ironic to us, not the ones who ran the simulation. They get their promotion and a hand job. At least, that's how I imagine how things work for higher beings. So, what if we made artificial intelligence within the simulation? Does that mean AI made AI in a simulation? Experiment number 3255A. Latest run of simulation had promising results. Population was 92.3% towards goal alpha. Ignorance is bliss. Before simulation was aborted. Experiment number 3255B will run without variable "wake up sheeple" as a dialogue option. When that happens, the whole universe will disappear, and a sign will appear in the darkness that just says, Level 2. We are all aware that the senses can be deceived, the eyes fooled. But how can we be sure our senses are not being deceived at any particular time? Or even all the time? Might I just be a brain in a tank somewhere, tricked all my life into believing in the events of this world by some insane computer, and does my life gain or lose meaning based on my reaction to such solipsism? Project Piro. Specimen 46. Bat 7. Activity recorded MY 2302.22467. Termination of specimen advised.
That no alcohol beyond this point. Might as well say, bet you can't chug that whole beer.
All alcohol beyond this point must be in your bloodstream. Just like the estimated time of arrival on GPS. Might as well say, I bet you can't get there faster than this. Las Vegas Strip. New Year's Eve 1998. Buddy and I are walking outside of Caesar's Palace heading to the Strip. Cops are lined up checking for anybody with glass bottles. Buddy had a full bottle of peach brandy. Cops stopped us, told him to get rid of it. Other cops said, a real man would just chug it. Buddy chugged it. 40 minutes later he was laying face down on the Strip. Had to get some help pulling him to the sidewalk, where he stayed for the next 4 hours. As a bouncer, it always feels like, how many bottles can you hide in your pants before anyone notices? Instead, TSA checkpoint. Bet you can't use that entire bottle of Drager right now.
People don't really want to go back to a time when the world was simpler. They want to go back to a time when they didn't understand how complicated the world has always been.
I want to go forward to a time when we have robot maids and cars that fit in a briefcase. The Jetsons really fricked up my perception of what the year 2000 should have been like. I am pretty sure pre-2001 has pretty simple air travel, but maybe that's just me. Also, people automatically imagine themselves in the past as a higher class than they currently are. So they imagine themselves as knights, not realizing that their equivalent in that period would be a peasant or serf. I think they also forget that they would have to figure out a life without plumbing, antibiotics, soap, etc. I want to go back in time when I didn't have to work every day. And the fact that a simpler time has never existed in history, from wars to corrupt governments to disease. Nothing was ever easy. We just think the grass is greener on the other side.
There must be millions of people who still spell out beautiful in their head the same way Jim Carrey did in Bruce Almighty.
I do Wednesday. As a teacher at an English center, my students struggled a bit with that word. Showed them the Bruce Almighty clip and they haven't gotten it wrong since. If it works, it works. Success, that's the way you spell success. Bart Simpson. I've watched Bruce Almighty twice in the span of like 14 years and only spell beautiful out that way. It's how I learned it as a child and it's stuck on. I sing Holla Back Girl in its entirety to spell bananas.
Due to most people not having full-blown professional kitchens, a cooking show that only uses basic ingredients and a microwave to create dishes would probably be pretty popular.
Your ingredients are pizza rolls, ramen noodles, and microwave burritos. Chefs, you have 5 minutes. Time starts now. If you got an oven and a top range, you can make pretty much anything. The Urban Peasant Cooking Show did this. The chef, the late James Barber, chose recipes that could be completed in the show's 30 minutes time slot. He too hated cooking shows that had pre-made foods hiding in the wings. That show was my favorite programs to watch after school. That's why You Suck at Cooking is such a good channel. I mean, you still need a cooktop, but the smallest apartment kitchen I've ever seen still had an electric burner. And I feel like you really can't go with less. If you try to cook most dishes in a microwave, you're honestly better off just doing a frozen dinner. For how it's going to turn out, I don't agree at all with this notion that most people only have a microwave.